So some new questions this morning about whether the White House may have cut a backroom deal with drug companies in order to get the health care law passed and to get their support in doing that. So the House committee behind this probe says that they believe that there was some sort of deal that was definitely made and that they want to know more. Let's find out a little bit more about this. Texas Republican Michael Burgess is on the House Energy and Commerce Committee that is leading this investigation. Congressman, welcome. Good to have you here today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
So what evidence do you have that there was any sort of arrangement between the White House and pharmaceutical companies as they headed into the vote on this bill?
Well, you know, this all goes back to about 3 years ago. It was May, June, and July of 2009 when the president came out and had some photo ops with leaders in industry and said, we've carved $2 trillion in health care expenses out of the next 10 years. Well, that's a pretty interesting figure for someone like myself who's got a background in healthcare delivery and an interest in health policy. So what was the makeup of this? And for 3 years, we've been stymied in trying to find the answer to this. Now, when the House Republicans took over the leadership of the committee in 2011, we really began to investigate this in earnest, and now, some 12, 14 months later, we are beginning to get pull the curtain back a little bit on just exactly what was going on. Were companies actually trading public support in order to get their policy provisions in the health care law? And it appears that that's the case.
So your suggestion is that the pharmaceutical companies were going to make out better financially as a result of the way the bill was written, that it would somehow benefit them. And according to these documents that you put out, you say that the internal records that you obtained from outside stakeholders who were engaged in the negotiations. So you have sources within these pharmaceutical companies that have turned over these negotiations to you?
That's correct, and and by implication, then the individuals in the White House were part of the communications stream.
So there was an email that definitely caught your attention from Jim Messina in the White House, and under the subject, it's written to a pharmaceutical lobbyist, correct?
Correct.
And under the subject, it says, "What the hell? This wasn't part of our deal." Do you have any more than that to sort of back up what's being discussed in that email?
Yes, there is more, and more will come out about this. But look, even going back to the fall of 2009, when Senator McCain tried to offer an amendment in the Senate Finance Committee dealing with reimportation. Now, Senator McCain and I disagree on this as a principle, but he should be able to offer his amendment. And when he was prohibited from offering that amendment with the statement that this was not part of our deal, again, that's got to make the hackles go up. And as you pointed out in the lead into this piece, the president himself promised no backroom deals on this health care stuff. Everything's out in the open. We're not going to close the door and cut a deal with lobbyists, but, you know, in fact, that's what was going on.
I mean, look at it from the other perspective for a moment, and, you know, is it not illogical that given this, you know, takes on such a huge portion of the U.S. economy, the healthcare business overall, that they would be discussing the way the bill is constructed with all of the players? You know, obviously pharmaceutical companies are big employers in this country, and nobody wants to see those huge American companies, you know, be hurt by this bill either.
Correct, and I have no quarrel with the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturing Association arguing on their behalf. What I do have a problem with is that it happened behind closed doors. The American public was excluded. Look, the House of Representatives was excluded. And this would have been an important place to bring in. Now, the House leadership was in Democratic hands at that point, but why weren't at least they in the room while these policy provisions were put into the health care law, essentially in exchange for the silence of pharma while this bill was being debated?
I understand you want more disclosure. I got to go, but you know, when will you be releasing what you have? You know, you seem to be claiming is a smoking gun from the pharmaceutical side. When are you going to fill in those blanks about exactly what this deal was?
Well, there's more to come for the balance of this week, and, you know, honestly, it took 3 years to get us to this point. I don't know why the White House hasn't been more forthcoming on this. Again, it does make you wonder, what in the world were they trying to hide? Was it just the fact that it went counter to the president's promises during the election and during the early part of his term, where he said, I'm not going to do these backroom deals. I'm not going to do these deals with lobbyists. And yet there they were around the table with the doors closed.
We'll look forward to seeing what you have in the future. Congressman Burgess, thank you for sharing your story with us. We'll talk to you soon.